Welcome to Season 8 of Paper Talk,
where we will explore how to build a creative community that fuels your art and your business.
Hi, I'm Quynh Nguyen of Pink & Posy.
I'm Jessie Chui of Crafted to Bloom.
And I'm Sara Kim of Handmade by Sara Kim.
This season is all about connections.
We'll share stories, strategies, and collaborations that strengthen your own community.
Tune in every other Thursday for new episodes.
Thanks for joining us today, and be sure to follow Paper Talk Podcast. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Paper Talk Podcast. I'm here with Jessie and Sara, and today we actually want to have a frank conversation with you. We actually had a conversation before this talking about where our business is going, how our mastermind cohort is doing, how can we change how we're mentoring and guiding the group to have really good conversation. And it's our first, actually, would be our so-called second mastermind, because the first one was our Paper to Profit mastermind, and we found it was very valuable. And so we wanted to make a space that we wanted people that are invested in their business and that wanted to grow, that wanted to change, and we really wanted to help them. That's our main goal. That's why Jessie, Sara, myself, we created the mastermind to be able to help other people that want to grow. We don't want them to make the same mistakes that we've done ourselves. And this is a really good example. Like Jessie was just mentioning earlier, when we're looking at Instagram, at TikTok, at the various different social media platform out there, you guys are making gorgeous flowers, extremely beautiful. But you know, one thing we notice, everybody kind of looks the same, which is good and bad. And we're just talking about how, Jessie, I'm going to use you because this is foremost in my thought. You said you didn't conquer the ranunculus until you were 3 or 4 years. And we look at students now conquering that ranunculus in year 1 and 2, which is amazing. It's exactly what we aim as teachers to be able to do that. But the biggest questions that we want to put out there is, how is your branding? What style are you putting out that shows your personality that will set you apart? Because in reality, I think why a lot of us are burnt out is we look out there, we're seeing all these beautiful things, but we don't know who they are. Because if you ask me and a lineup of pictures, what is Sara flowers like? What is Jessie flower like? What is Quynh flower like? What is Ann Wood like? I can immediately identify it. If you're all making the same peonies, I know exactly who belongs to who. But now when we look at the social media, we can't identify you. Mm-hmm. So we're like, how can we solve this problem for you guys? So this is the conversation that we want to have with you today, is really about your branding, your style, your personality. And it's a hard one. And I want you, after you listen to this particular episode, is to reevaluate and look at your photos, look at your videos, look at what output you are putting out to your audience, and then re-examine, who is your customer base? Who do you want to be buying your art, to be working with all these brand deals? Are you putting out the right art, the right social media posts that will attract those people and move you in the direction that you want to go into? And then I'm just going to pass the mic over to Jessie, because she brought up this really interesting part where she was asking, here, you tell the story, Jessie.
Yeah, this is my story of how important it is to have someone from the outside tell you about your own art, because we are in our own minds, right? As an artist, our art is very personal to us and we see it in a certain way, but it might not convey actually the message we intend until you ask somebody about it, until you ask somebody who's outside of that. And so I actually had approached one of my husband's work friends, and she's a marketer. So she doesn't help with artists marketing their work, but she helps with startup companies. And previously, she was CEO of a jewelry company as well. And so she has some experience in the female arts community, but not actually what we do, which I think gave her some insight into, evaluating, I would say, my brand and evaluating my work as an outsider, because that's what it is. It's first impressions, right? When a brand comes across your work, what's their first impression of your work? First, it has to be aesthetically pleasing in some way. Okay, it's subjective, right? But pleasing as in there's consistency, there's a strong message being conveyed, strong aesthetic. And I want to say, I know, Quynh, you talked about beautiful flowers. They are beautiful, but beautiful flowers doesn't mean it's your aesthetic. It's your style. Your style could be ugliness. It could be very simple lines. It doesn't have to be, what you think is beautiful. Anyways, so at the time, I was was considering collaborating with another company, and she asked me some amazing questions. But one of them that she really was puzzled by was the fact that my name at the time was Crafted to Bloom. And so at the time, I only had one brand, Crafted to Bloom, and I had been thinking about, veering off to another brand, Jessie Chui Fine Art. And her comment was, well, my name, Crafted to Bloom, has craft in it. And by the very virtue of that, craft denotes something that is not expensive. So if I'm intending to sell arrangements or prints for $10,000, if I'm using the name Crafted to Bloom, it's going to actually water down my brand. It's going to convey a different message than what I actually want to convey, which is quote unquote fine art, right? And I use this term loosely, but unfortunately the art community is very snobby. So if you use crafted, crafts are not seen as expensive or as requires much skills, etc. So at that time, I had already thought about that, but her actually pointing it out to me was like a aha moment where I'm like, no, I have to do this. Someone else literally came into my world, took a look at my work and said, I don't think that name works with what message you're trying to convey. And it's a hard one, because I came up with that name, 10 years ago. It's a name close to my heart, right? So the other things that she had talked about really was about marketing and whether or not my brand aligned with their brand. And that was a great discussion to have as well, because it really made me rethink about what am I trying to say? Like, is their brand going to speak and push my work further? Like, are we aligned in terms of what we want to say? And granted, that brand was, but I could easily see that it would be a really interesting discussion to have if that brand was something else like Temu, which Temu, I think, has been emailing everyone to collaborate with them. But I mean, those are the conversations, the frank ones that I had outside of myself that I really couldn't have with myself, if that makes sense. Because even though I kind of know, it really helps when there's a third person, a fourth person, a fifth person to point those things out without without intending to hurt you, but to really push you to do better, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
The intentions are good, but you need somebody to actually say that to you, because honestly, at that time I was 7 years in already? So 7 years is not, it's a lot. It's a lot of time. And at some point, I think I wish that I had somebody say that to me even earlier, 5 years in maybe, because by 5 years I was already kind of looking at, what am I doing with my art? I know how to make paper flowers. What am I doing? But it would be a good time to re-examine, why am I feeling stagnant? Is it because my art, because I want to learn more? Or is it because I want to work with different brands? Or is it because I'm not communicating the right things in my messaging? The people aren't coming back, either customers aren't coming back or brands aren't reaching out or whatever it is. Why is that? And I think I wish that at least by 5 years, I had that kind of reevaluation of, do I have to rebrand? Because rebranding is very common, right? It's a very common thing, but I never thought about rebranding until, like I said, I was in my 7th or 8th year to do that. But after that experience, that's when I did coaching too, when I had a coach help me out too. And that also helped too, because it helped with running my business, in a way that was sustainable. And so through all that experience, that's why, with Quynh and Sara, you guys really made it possible to start and bring people together so that they too could have that kind of experience, that kind of thoughtful conversation about my business, about other people's businesses, but in a way where we're trying to all move forward, right? But yeah, the one thing that really got me and it got my butt moving, even though I had all these things in our heads, we all do, right? Where we're oh, I should do this, I should do that. But we never do it. It wasn't until someone actually literally was yeah, you're right.
As females, we hear it, but it has to sit with us. We have to simmer in the back of our head and internally accept what people are telling us before we actually move on. I think that was the reason why we created the mastermind, is because I felt there was a lack of communication with myself and with the real world on creating the business that I wanted. Yes, I have all these thoughts. I'm moving, I'm making, I'm reaching out, but you never have a moment to really stop and talk about your business. Because when you get a chance to really hear what inside all your thoughts, your emotions, they kind of vomit out. And sometimes they're incoherent. But when you get a chance to really hear it through your own ears and hear it reverberate back from the group, that's this is what I'm hearing you're saying. And it's actually really not what you're trying to achieve. And then you have these people that are looking from you outside and like, okay, I see your social media, because you can pull it up anywhere now. You have your phone, your laptop, and as you're talking, people are like looking at it and saying, you know what, I'm hearing this, but it's not, I don't see it. And so how do you go about changing that? And that is the conversation that takes a while to happen. And that's why the mastermind that we're having right now is like 6 months out, because we might have the conversation right at the beginning or in the middle, but it won't be achievable until many weeks later. Because when you start hearing other people having the same problems or hearing a different perspective of the same problem, a light triggers on and you're like, oh my gosh, that really hits home. This is why I need to change. I would say, okay, let me back up a little bit. A lot of people, when they join various coaching or mastermind, they have this grandiose idea. When I enter this, I'm going to make big changes. But you know what? It's these tiny baby little steps that you don't barely recognize, but at the end of the goal, something does change inside you. You're moving in a different direction. Those conversations that you have with other artists, with other creators, with other coaches or mentors that are guiding you, they plant these tiny little seeds that will take time to grow. And you won't see the results right away. And that's why it takes time and experience to really recognize. And you have to have these hard conversations and people pushing you to be able to grow. And it's hard. You won't see the results right away. And you have to be committed. You can't just show up every once in a blue moon. You can't be sitting on the sidelines and just be watching the recordings of these meetings and think that you're getting a lot out of it. You have to be hearing yourself talk and hearing the feedback from the group to be able to grow. And it's a hard one. I mean, we think we don't have time because we're surrounded by all the different works. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're an aunt, whatever. Life gets in the way, yes, but you can't succeed in your life until you are capable, confident, and that takes time. And that takes a lot of work that I feel like you think you can put in the work, but in reality, a lot of people cannot put in the work.
It's hard being an entrepreneur. And I would say it's not just artists, right? There's a lot of business owners there who run a business by themselves and they also cannot do it alone. Like it seems like they are, but they're often not. They often are in networking groups. They're often have a spouse, probably an extra wife, doing all the other stuff.
You have a work wife?
A work wife, yeah, exactly. Like from the outside, it seems like they are, but you know, a lot of successful people have personal coaches. They have people like cheering on the sidelines for them in many different ways. And they might seem like they're confident, but that's from experience. That's from talking about their work all the time, talking about their business, talking with other people about it. And that's why they have the confidence to step in certain ways. But yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, you guys pushed me. Right? I'm like, well, every time we have mastermind meetings, every time we have podcast meetings, it's always, I feel like I'm more awake afterwards. And I'm like, okay, now what am I going to do? Right? So at some point after, I find like the first couple of years in business, I was like, go, go, go. And at a certain point, it's not that anymore because you've done everything that so far you've wanted to do. And you get to a point where you're kind of burned out, right? Just doing everything by yourself. So at that point, a couple of years in, it is when I think the turning point is when you find those people who you can be honest with, who can share your joys and success. And at the same time, also, help you support you, when your business is not doing so well. I think those are the turning points. Those are the supporters who will get you through the hard and good times and take your business to somewhere you probably never even thought it could go. We all have the ability. It's just sometimes we need that extra push.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like I would have been very defensive when it comes to like having these hard conversations, really. Like if someone I don't even know if I want someone to critique my work to begin with because I'm afraid. And because my art is so close to me, it's like, it hurts kind of to hear the truth. But I think those hard conversations is what truly makes the change, really, right? Like even for you to hear that from someone completely outside of the paper flower world to tell you that that's the change that you should make. I would have been a little bit on like defensive mode, but then at the same time, you're like, oh yeah, that is, there's some truth in that. And I did mention it a few times that like sometimes we can get a little harsh in our mastermind, but not like hard feelings. It's so that, we truly want them to change for the better. And like, it kind of reminds me of when it comes to dealing with like, kind of like, health journey. It's like a hard truth where you're like, dang it, I'm the, it's not, I feel like, yeah, having those hard conversations it's hard to hear the truth, especially when it comes to like health related things, especially in the new year. And I don't like hearing that I'm not healthy, but it's like so true. And I don't know where I'm even tying this in, but I wanted to share, like, recently I read a post where it said like, if you're serious only like 10 days out of 31 days, so in a month, whatever that is. I mean, it was specific to eating healthy. 10 out of 31 is like, it's failing. And then by percentage. So I think like thinking of it in terms of like business, if you're only working on your business 10 out of 31 days, you're also failing. I mean, I'm not saying you have to put in like 31 days out of 31 days to be like this A student, but your result comes with, I mean, numbers don't lie. It really doesn't.
You get what you put in.
Yeah. That was specifically for like eating healthy, like, but then I think it like portrays in everything in life, the more you put in, the more result you'll get. And we also had this conversation with our mastermind about like, what do we do when we're not like working on our art? And I almost feel like, oh, but you still have to work on your art, whatever that is. I don't know, like whatever business related, you have to be self-motivated when it comes to building your business. And that's like a hard conversation to have in our mastermind, but with our audience as well. People that are listening and want to grow your small business. Like, I want to encourage you guys that you have to be working on something,
Yeah. Rather that be reading a book about marketing, about branding, how to network, how to communicate with others. That's putting the work into your business, because if do you want to teach more? Then you need to go to other workshops and learn how people are running their workshop. If you want to do artist talk or do art galleries, are you visiting galleries? Are you talking to the gallery owners? Are you trying to figure out, can my art fit in your gallery? Would it be possible? Are you talking to strangers on the streets or in coffee shops about your art? Getting that practice in to talk about what do you do? Because really, if you're able to talk to strangers about your artwork, it'll be so much easier to talk to brand deals, collaborators about your art, because you already put in the work. You've already explained and worked through in your mind how you want to represent yourself. Are you taking pictures of your photos? Because everyone, I hate to say this, but if you're an artist, you need a way to document and show your work. And if it's through your phone, taking pictures through that way, if you have a digital camera, if you're able, and I recommend this to everyone, take a picture of your work every single day, even in stages of incomplete, in parts and bits, because it's a great way to reflect back. Just like, oh my gosh, I started this and look at where I am right now. It's a sense of accomplishment. You don't have to show it to everyone, but you're building your skill set right now. So when you're able to showcase your work, you know how to photograph your work. You know the right angle. You know how the lights are shining through your office, where you're taking those pictures. You know the right time. Because in my office, the best time to take my photos is between 10 and 1. That is probably in Seattle with gray weather. It's optimum time. Then it's too dark. After that, it's way too dark. So you get to know what you're doing. And these are the unsung heroes of our work, of doing all these hard things. And so that when you are ready to showcase your stuff out to the world, you're ready. You're not like, oh my gosh, I have a photo shoot next week. I have to present this to this. And you're like learning how to photograph things. Yeah. That's a little bit too late, you guys. It's always better to start now than to start later. Yeah. And we always could have started yesterday, to be honest.
And it's funny that paper flower like artists like us need to know how to photograph too. Like you during your downtime, you should totally learn. You could have tutorials on how to figure out how to take photos with your iPhone if that's all you have, or with your camera. I know there's like city classes that help you learn how to make videos, help you learn how to take photos. But it's like so crucial. If the photo doesn't look good, it doesn't matter how good your flower looks in person. Because
so true.
I mean, in 2026, we got to be on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about how few people see your work in person. Right? If it's a commission other than your client and maybe your family, no one else sees it. So you do want to record its existence in a way that shows off your work in one way or the other, whatever you want to show off, whether it's because you want to show that it's beautiful or you want to show the color. I was drawn to photographs because I think it's another way of expressing yourself. I think it's another way of telling the story of your paper flower. So I would take advantage of it. I think it's a great way to add to your paper flower, whether it's the beauty or the story or whatever it might be. And it's a great way to brand yourself, because ultimately a camera is not just a camera, like it's the way you see the world and you want to share that with people. And it could very easily just be, white walls, white background, and put your flower there and that's how you see the world, or maybe a little bit more colorful. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just something that start off by something that works for you and stick to it and then start experimenting. Like you might actually find that the camera sees something in your flower that you didn't realize and might lead you to something else, I like how that looks. I want to keep doing something like that. I just think it's a wonderful opportunity to expand your creativity. And, videoing is a little bit different, but it's just another way of expressing yourself. And I think as artists, we express ourselves pretty consistently across mediums, actually. If you've got a style and aesthetic, but it takes time. It just takes time to establish that aesthetic, that style. You can't rush it. It takes sometimes a lifetime. And that's okay. That's okay. Work with what you have now. Choose a color. Choose a favorite color to work with. Make the flower the same color every time, or a background, same color every time. That consistency, I think, will help kind of make everything in your grid or website or whatever, how you present yourself, more consistent and coherent. There's harmony in that. And I think that goes a long way in telling your story.
Are you an artist who dreams of working with big brands, of having your art in galleries and museums, of sharing and teaching your art to students around the world?
Then we're here for you. We have the experience and expertise to help you get your business set up to attract those customers.
That's why we created the Paper Talk Mastermind. It's a 6-month space where experienced, creative women can talk through real decisions around pricing, offer, and direction together.
Our next cohort begins March 3rd, 2026, and we meet twice a month in a supportive, thoughtful setting.
If you're ready to move and grow your business, our circle is waiting for you.
Jessie, Sarah, and I would love to welcome you to our mastermind this year. Learn more at papertalkpodcast.com. Now back to our episode. Yeah. And don't let age stop you. I would say a lot of our audience is a lot older. I didn't start making paper flowers until I was in my 40s. I'm now in my 50s. It's crazy to say. And that was, I feel like I finally found myself after half a century of doing all these various things, educating myself, working, talking to people. Who knew that I was an artist? I would never have called myself an artist growing up in my 20s, in my 30s. I didn't think it was in my wheelhouse. So it's never too late. You just got to put in the time to discover what you love, what you like, and then put in the effort in. It will show up.
For sure. I think you're richer with life experience, to be honest. As I think all artists tell richer stories with life experience. You know yourself better. You know what you like, what you don't like. Stick to that. Lean into what you like. That's the easiest way. And that's true and authentic. And I think that's like the first way to explore, where I'm going to go with my art. But yeah, the life experience, I think, is only to your advantage. You can tell stories that no one else can. You look at things that in a way that 20-year-olds, babies cannot, because they've never gone through it. They don't have the depth of emotional experience that you do. And I think that is something that you really should lean into when you're creating your art and telling your story through your art. It's unique and it touches people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying like young people can't do it. They can as well. But I think it's rare for them to be able to create such emotional dissonance in their work.
I feel like actually the opposite with younger generations of artists, they do tend to think out of the box really well. They are out of their comfort zone at all times. So I feel like that's their
strength.
And then, with age, it also comes with the life experience and the things that they've already kind of known to like. But then they're also sometimes stuck. So I feel like as I'm getting older, I do feel like I look back and I'm like, dang, I was really creative back then. I'm sometimes stuck in my own style that I like.
Because you don't know any better. There are no there are no rules for you, right? Because you don't know them. So you just do whatever you want, which is great. That's amazing that you were able to do that. Definitely in my 20s, I was not like that. I was not raised like that at all. It was I was in that box. I was absolutely in that box. But yes, you're right. I mean, to some extent, the older you get, you kind of think that this is the way it should be. This is the way it has been. So you don't know how to break out of it. You never even think about it.
You're never given the freedom to break out of it
Yeah.
because you were taught by your parents.
A certain way. Yeah. Yeah. I suppose that's why a lot of people do change careers after a certain turning point in their life.
Yes.
Where they realize the rules don't matter, because no matter how much you follow the rules, things don't go the way that you want them to, right? And so a lot of people do kind of break out. At that point, they're like, screw this. I'm going to do what I like. And
it's funny, the three of us did that technically. We came from complete different backgrounds.
Yeah, Sarah being a musician, Jessie being an attorney, myself being a finance person, completely different backgrounds. You can always change. You just got to follow your passion. That's where it all started. Our love for what we do with our hands, and then using our experience, our life experience, to kind of guide us to where we want to be right now. And that's taken a lot of conversations through the three of us. And then with me and Jessie during COVID, I want to say Jessie was a huge component when she was pregnant with her second child. And it was kind of crazy because we couldn't do what we were doing. And so we created Paper to Profit from scratch and wrote out hundreds of pages. And it was kind of crazy. Like Jessie and I would have work parties through Zoom, and we would be just cranking it out. And it was, I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we did that.
I know, just so much work.
Yeah. But during that time, Jessie and I had a lot of conversation about where we wanted to take Paper Talk. How do we want to do our podcast? And our podcast is now in season 8. Which is so crazy to think. We started back in 2019.
I know.
And now here we are in 2025. And we brought Sarah along, and it has evolved. Our conversation has changed. And I actually really love this in-depth conversation we're having right now, because now we get a chance to really talk about it. Because through life experience, we're like, okay, this is what happened to us. This is how you can avoid our mistakes. Or here's something that I would love to change your mind and to plant a seed to hopefully this will guide you to where you want to be in the future.
It was pivoting, right? To some extent. We're pivoting because of COVID. But honestly, I don't think I could have done it alone. I don't think I would have had the motivation to do it by myself for such a big change and to start something new, really, new things. I think would have been daunting. I think like we might have had the ideas, but executing is so different, right? Executing is so hard when it's just you and you've got all this other stuff. So, for sure. I mean, this is why we have the mastermind, is because from our own experience, our personal experience of what really helped motivate ourselves and push ourselves, right, in our business was having people around us who can support us.
Exactly. And knowing that you're not alone. That's the real identity as an artist, is because you do work alone all the time. And you're looking at social media, you're looking at the website, you're looking at all these different things to help you shape who you are. But sometimes you just got to have that conversation, that look inward, and how is that representing you as an artist and representing to the world. And I think that's why I love the mastermind so much, because sometimes I'm also, when I walk away from one of our meetings, I'm looking at myself like, okay, I had this conversation with our cohort. Is I'm moving in the right direction to help my peers? Am I moving in the direction where my artist is showing who I am? And it's not only helping other people, it's actually really helping myself too. And it's so important that you're always constantly evolve. You can never stay stagnant as an artist, because then your art is not moving with you and you're staying back a decade ago, and you're not identifying with the kids that are growing up and buying your art because they identify with what you're making, which is so important. You need to be able to move with your audience and to know the heartbeat of your industry. Yeah. So this is the hard conversation we wanted to have with you today. I hope you are thinking about what you're doing and what you want to make happen. And, DM any of us. Let's start a conversation together. Let us know how we can help you, move you, and evolve with you. But I want to kind of change it over to our favorite ending of the episode. And I have to share something. This is so funny. So I was kind of sick in January, and I really couldn't do much with my hands because I just wasn't feeling very well. I ended up getting an audiobook through Audible because I have an Amazon thing. And you guys, I have to recommend this book. It is the funniest book. I love, the movie Ready Player One, Project Hail Mary. It's kind of in that line. It's only $6.99 on audio because it's the #1 book right now. It's called Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Oh my gosh. 100% move it up to your line because it is the funniest thing I have listened to in a really, really long time. It's about how Earth gets invaded by aliens and it turns into a video game where you have to beat these goblins and all these creatures, and you have to like level up or actually move down into the dungeon lower and lower until you survive and people die. But they do it in a very comedic way that is really entertaining. And the two main character is a cat called Princess Donut and this guy that they dub him name as Carl because he was the first Carl to enter this. So there are Carl 1, 2, 3, whatever. But it is funny. It's entertaining. And if you just need a switch of scene, I highly recommend this book. Dungeon Crawler Crawl.
I did hear about it, but I didn't know what it was about. So that I might move to the top of my list.
Yes, you should. It's very, very funny, especially if you have to drive long distance.
Yeah.
It's super entertaining. The guy that actually reads the book, he does all these amazing voices and it's just really entertaining. It's kind of like Project Hail Mary. If you love that book, you're going to love this book.
I've also heard of Project Hail Mary. It's a book, right? Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of that as a book, not as audiobook, but yeah.
Ryan Gosling is starring in that. I think he's perfectly cast for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be a really, really good one.
Cool.
How about you guys? Any fun buys that you've had recently or Christmas presents that you're like, oh, that was a good one?
There was a sample sale at Benjamin Moore. I bought a bunch of like little pots of paint samples because I was doing some backgrounds and stuff. The only thing was, so what I did was I shared it in my stories or reel on one of my accounts anyways, was I was playing with swatches, but I have colored swatches. And so I like went through the websites and had to convert a whole bunch of things. And then I had to match it with Benjamin Moore like swatches, like paint swatches. And afterwards I realized, nobody, because I couldn't get them to line up like perfectly. So they were either a little bit more saturated or more, I don't know, add more blue or green or red or whatever it is. And then afterwards I realized I'm like, yeah, of course, like nobody wants like these dull colors on their wall. They want like something a little bit more vibrant, right? So they weren't going to have like the specific colors that I was choosing on my color aid. But anyways, it was a really good deal. I think it was in Canadian, it was like $3.50 per pot.
Oh, that's
usually
good.
It's like $7 per pot or tub. And it's supposed to be like 2 feet by 2 feet. You could cover a wall 2 feet by 2 feet. I'm pretty sure you can cover more. But it was a good spend because, I mean, imagine having to just like mix all the colors yourself, buy paints to do that. And it was just easy because it's these really beautiful colors just out of the sample. And the good thing is it's also dries really fast because it's latex. So you don't have to wait forever. But yeah, I did that. So anyways, that was a good sale. That's the only time I buy Benjamin Moore things. Because they have like sample stickers, which is really cool, right? But they're so expensive. They're like $10. So if I want 5 colors, that's $50 already. And I don't even know if I'm going to use them, right? And I think the max size is like 9 inches by 18 inches. So not even that big, but it adds up. So anyways, it was a good deal. So that was a good buy.
Yeah, that's a really great deal.
Yeah.
How about you, Sarah?
It's not under $10 or $20 or whatever, but I went to a workshop recently. It was a screen printing workshop. And I love doing, if you guys heard on Paper Talk already, I love doing like new workshops, just random. It's like a little treat for myself. So in the new year, I wanted to go learn something new. It was a screen printing class. So it was definitely something that I've never done before. One of those things that one of the reasons why I love going to these classes is because you learn that like nothing is easy. In my head, I was like, oh, screen printing sounds so easy, but it was not. And all the attention to detail when it comes to measuring things out. There's little rules that go like how many inches is where the print should go from the neck down. Like every little thing, there is a rule to it too. I don't know. I think I like observing small businesses as well because it was a small business locally and just, knowing like, oh, this is probably the cost that he has to use for supplies versus how much he would make after a shirt. I don't know, like things like that. It's like fascinating for me. And to know that he does this full time. He has like a little like workspace and he also does like embroidery. Yeah, I think I just like observing small businesses and and it's kind of like art related too. Like and when he found out that I make paper flowers, he was like, whoa, like that's so cool. And I don't know. It was really fun. I made just a regular printed shirt, and you realize that shirts should be way more expensive. I mean, factory shirts, I'm sure there's machines that might do it, but screen printing is a real process.
Yeah, it is. Greater appreciation, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Everything. It's everything, right? We buy vases from the store and we expect it to be $10 or maybe $20 if it's really nice. But you realize I guess a machine could have made it, but if someone really made this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So much work. People forget about that. And I love that artists are doing workshops because it really shows you the process and how long it takes and how much materials and how much you have to bring to the table.
And the experience that came with that. Yeah. You don't do this. I mean, he didn't do this just from the blue. He's a teacher because he's been in business for 10 years,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. As all three of us who are teachers, we really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this particular episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a like, give us a follow. And more importantly, if you can drop a comment down, we would love to hear from you again in a couple of weeks when another episode drops.